Hey everybody, welcome to HVAC Unplugged, where we talk about HVAC, life, and more. Today I'm really happy to have a couple of great guests with me, a couple ladies who are now become friends of mine. They are also in the heating and air conditioning industry and not from locally either. Jen Sue right here is actually from Dallas, Texas. Tiffany Cascone is actually from New Jersey. So, first of all, thank you all for joining me for this podcast.
Thank you.
And I thought it'd be interesting to get a female's point of view about the heating and air conditioning industry. And certainly we know you all know more about life than us guys do. So maybe we'll talk about some of that too. But I'll just ask each of you individually. So Jen, how did you actually get into the industry to begin with?
I started about 20 years ago. I just wanted a simple job Monday through Friday so I could be home with my kids. They were all entering high school and I wanted to be available for all the sports and activities. And it just kind of stuck. Every time I tried to leave and get away from it, it kept pulling me right back in. And 20 plus years later, here I am, just having done almost everything in the industry except for go out in the field and fix it.
And you actually got started here in Maryland, right?
In Maryland, yep. Yep, with Universal Air Conditioning and Heating out in Pasadena. And I worked for him off and on for 10 years. And I tell everybody all the time that he taught me most of what I know. Not the office side of it, but the technical side, the knowledge part of it. He loved to share that, how the compressor works and how it's connected to this and how this could cause this to happen. You don't necessarily have a place when you're working in the office to go and learn those things. So
Very cool.
mhm.
All right, Tiffany, how about you? How did you end up in the industry?
Well, I married into it.
Okay.
My husband, I met him 18 years ago, and he was working for a company at the time, and he was very, very unhappy. So we sat down together, and I said, "Well, I think you should quit your job, and we'll open up an air conditioning company."
Nice.
And a month later, that's exactly what we did.
Very cool.
So we're working on year 19 now. And it's been a challenge. Has its benefits, has its ups, its down. Obviously we're seasonally driven, so for us, especially in New Jersey, it's like when it's really good, it's really good, but when it's really bad, it's really bad.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how we got into it. And he's been doing HVAC for over 33 years.
Yeah. Shout out to Joe, by the way. I know you're gonna be watching this. So great guy. So
Thank you.
So anyway, both of you, I've met through our best practices group. We're all co-members of that organization, and y'all heard me talk about it before. How that particular organization, Service Nation Alliance, is some of the best business owners, best people, not just in the United States, but also Canada, and also I think even from Australia. Yeah. So pretty cool. But just getting to know great people like yourselves, I know I'm very thankful for. And again, Jen originally came up here to visit with family.
Yep.
And you want to talk about kind of how you ended up, here today, how that all kind of transpired.
I came to visit for a vacation, see family, spend time with the kids and grandkids, and Roy's company is about 30 minutes from my home area. So coming to visit just seemed like a natural thing to do. We officially met, maybe 2 years ago online?
Sounds right.
On a AV call.
On one of the virtual events.
Yep, and then we had the opportunity to have our first public speaking event together last year.
Yes, you did.
And it's been friendship ever since. And Tiffany and I met at a training class.
Yes, in Dallas.
In person, maybe 3 years ago.
Yes.
And it wasn't until last fall, same type of situation, it just clicked. And there's not a day that I can't imagine going by without talking to her.
I know.
Just having that connection is something that best practices network really gives you, because when you're not doing HVAC as a job yourself,
right,
you feel like the company you work for is the only one out there, the
right,
only one having those problems. And having sounding boards and connections with other people that work in the industry really helps make your day-to-day roles and responsibilities easier to accomplish, because you have a resource to pull that information from now.
And I will say with joining Service Nation, I didn't go into it wanting to make friends. I was there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to, better my business. But what I ended up coming out with was so much more knowledge than I ever thought I can get, so much more support. Because a lot of times, especially as a business owner, you really feel like you're alone in it. So it's been wonderful.
I agree. So you mentioned, you wanted to come visit, which I'm glad you did. As we've talked yesterday and today, y'all attended our company, service tech meeting
Yeah.
yesterday with all of our field reps, and then today attended our leadership meeting. So y'all brought some great input, to both meetings, and I was glad that our entire team was able to get some ideas from both of you. So just for my own curiosity's sake, I'd love to know, like, your takeaways, the couple days you've been here. What are some things that you've taken away from our culture, our environment, our team?
Well, I told you before, visiting other, owners, their companies and how they run their day to day. It makes you feel two different ways. It makes you feel excited because you can learn so much more by stepping outside and seeing how everybody else runs their company, and also talking to their staff, which is wonderful. And you get all that input and you get excited because you want to go back home and the things that you're not doing, you want to implement them really fast. But at the same time, makes you feel absolutely horrible about yourself. like because you get to the point where you're like, man, I've been doing this for 18 years and I haven't been doing that. Like it took me going outside of, my company and watching other people interact with each other. And I love how your staff interacts with each other, because they don't look like they just work with each other. They do look like they are actually enjoying being with each other. They look like they're family at this point. So you definitely have a great thing going here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm impressed. Very impressed.
That was one of the biggest takeaways I took too from the meeting. Like, you can see your core values filtered down even to just a meeting. That, everybody appreciates everybody, they appreciate the input from everybody, and they all want to see the company do better. For me, I try and visit as many companies as I can. And, even on my call this morning, they're like, you're seeing somebody else, aren't you, on vacation? Yes, but for me, this is vacation. I don't know how to sit still. So learning more, sharing more, that's what excites me personally, right? And coming in and seeing other companies, seeing your company together in a meeting was like, how do I go back and get my team involved like that?
Absolutely.
How do I get that feedback from them, that buy-in, that interaction? But also, on the other hand, you come into another company and you see, okay, like, we all kind of are doing the same things. We're having the same issues.
Yeah.
They were having the same problems. How did they
Yes.
address the same problems? And what advice can I offer? How can you streamline this process? Or what can I take back to my team and say, oh, okay. Or not even take back to them, but take back to the processes that I look at every day and say, how can I streamline mine so that I'm getting not exactly the same result, but the same buy-in?
Right.
Because ultimately, we're all, as much as we're trying to run an efficient and profitable business, we're also all trying to build the culture in that business.
Absolutely.
And one wrong interaction or one wrong person invited into it and the culture is gone.
Right.
So you kind of obsess over that. So going in and being invited into another company and seeing their culture is live and active and has a mind of its own and it's strong behind it. Like, something simple isn't going to tear it apart.
And it's refreshing. It really
Exactly.
is. It's just so great to see how much you and your wife have just become, you are like your, what do you call that? Where the husband and the wife are like, they're like a power couple.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
And I like to look, not look at myself like that, but for Joe and I, that's what I feel like too, because we work so good together.
Yes.
And when you have that and your staff sees that a husband and a wife can work together and still go home at the end of the day and love each other like crazy,
Yeah.
it makes the culture in your work area even better.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll give both of you kudos, and specifically Tiffany, I was thinking about you as you said that. You've done the tough thing that, 6-8 months ago,
Yeah.
had to let some team members go because they weren't great for your culture. Recently, another situation going through currently, very similar situation. So to make those tough calls, you're right, business can be tough sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate everything you both said about our team, and I agree, like, we've got such a tremendous team that we spend more time with each other than we do with our own families.
Yeah.
So we better like each other, right?
Right.
But it's not always like that. So I don't take that for granted at all. And I appreciate you both noticing that. Because I know my team, I'm going to show them this video, and I think it'll mean a lot to them. Just letting them hear your perspective of, someone just coming in for a day or two,
Right.
being able to recognize
And we don't know
what
them
we can take
at
for
all.
granted if
Right.
we aren't intentional about it. So, okay, well, thank you for that. I want to kind of move on a little bit. Well, before I do, finish the point I was starting, it's just, you both do have dynamic companies. Like, I know a lot about, your company, all that you do with mentoring other groups. And you're a dynamic leader, just from what I personally know about you, but just also hearing some things you've implemented within, coming not even as the owner, as a general manager. You take everything about that business as serious, and maybe sometimes maybe even more than the owner does. And I think that's amazing. And same thing for you, Tiffany, like you and Joe, I do look at how you two interact with each other, and y'all have that amazing marriage, amazing ownership, so y'all are doing all the right things, so.
Try it's work. I tried, and it works. It works.
And
So-
sometimes there's 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls.
Yes.
So just transition just a little bit. So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question from two ladies who I both consider dynamic leaders. In a male dominant industry, is it tough being a lady in this industry? And
I'll
kind of
let you go first on that
second
one.
question onto that is a lady in authority in this industry, and has there been a transition since when you got into now? Is there a shift, and would you recommend other females coming into the industry?
It is. It can be very hard. It can be very hard, but I don't feel that it's from people already working in the industry themselves.
Okay.
The industry is clamoring for women. They want women. They want them in the office. They want them in the fields. They're looking for that. And more often than not, it's, when I say the industry, I mean business owners. It's the suppliers, it's the manufacturers that bring the old school mentality of she's just a woman, she doesn't know any better. It can also be geographical location, like, oh, this one, she's a smart one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll unpack that one later.
Right.
You know,
Let's throw some hands.
more often than not, when you're faced with that type of mentality, when you address it head on,
Yes.
not necessarily speaking on it, but your behavior addresses it.
Yep.
Calmly, assertively, you let it be known you know what you're talking about after 20 years of experience, their mindset begins to change.
It does.
When I started where I am now, they had 2 guys that had been here for 20 years. They were the hardest to finally get to buy into me, to believe into what I was bringing to the table. And general manager wasn't even the position I was hired for. It was CSR dispatcher. And my personal nature took over, and I started taking on more responsibility. And I earned their respect. I earned the respect of the people that we deal with on a daily basis to like, okay, she might actually know what she's talking about. And then to see the changes come along, because I believe heavily in processes and procedures and structure and organization, and implementing all of those things made the changes that made it able. That's not even what I'm trying to say. For people to believe,
Possible, right?
for people to believe in that. There's very few people where I've faced them where they're just like, oh, she's a woman, she's stupid.
Yeah.
It's very rare. And then when I do hit that wall with them, I'm going to hit you with every fact that I have.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's the documentation we sent to you. Here's how it is. And then I can break it down into the simplest matter so that you can grasp the concept of the knowledge that I do have.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
Because I have to tell you, you would think it's men that give you the rough time. It's actually had more negative reactions to women than men,
Wow.
believe it or
It's
not.
actually the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
And I do recall a time where my CSR, I heard her. She was like, give me 1 second. I will get the owner on the phone for you.
Mhm.
And I went and I said, hello, this is Tiffany. And I got the, you?
Wow.
I'm like, who else? Oh, I'm sorry, did you want somebody else? You wanted the owner, right? Yes, I want to speak to the owner. Okay, how can I help you?
Wow.
And she was so dumbfounded that a woman, And then I had a situation where I used to have a female technician, and she went to a home, and the woman was older, looked at her as if like, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she called me and said, don't send her back here. I want one of the guys coming here.
Oh, wow.
So
Mhm.
yes, have I had one gentleman, one time in 18 years, actually said that it was inappropriate for a woman to own, a male industry, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
But that's the customer that I don't have anymore. I said, well, that's not a problem. I said, I don't have to service you. There's plenty of customers, there's plenty of
Mhm.
companies out there that are going to be more than willing to serve your ignorant,
Right.
But it's also, it's refreshing when you can present yourself in a way that you change their mentality, and then you're the only person they want to talk to.
Yes.
When they call back.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one that can handle their problems, because now they have so much faith in your ability.
Yes.
I want you. I don't want to talk to anybody else but you.
Mhm.
I mean, I've faced the same thing. Well, I don't like your answer. I want to speak to somebody higher than you. Well, I am the general manager, and that's as high as it gets.
Right.
So would you like me to repeat my answer, or would you like to make a decision? And sometimes it takes that assertiveness.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes the soft hand, but I think as women, we better understand how to give and take a
yes.
pull on both of those options.
I agree.
So is that a frequent thing or is it more rare? Like I gotta be.
Oh,
It's so rare for me.
it's very rare.
Like I said, I think this has happened in 18 years 3 times,
Mhm.
and that's like almost like it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first got in, it was more frequent, way more frequent. So
Yeah.
vendors would come and they wouldn't even acknowledge you. They would
Oh,
want to speak
wow.
to somebody else. Warehouse manager. I'm the parts person. You're gonna talk to me. I'm gonna talk to you about pricing. We're gonna have that
Yes.
conversation. And eventually over time, and most of the time, and it sounds cliche to say it, but it's gonna start with that handshake.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's gonna start with that handshake, and it's gonna be a dead on. I'm gonna look in your eyes, and we're gonna have a full blown from the handshake.
And you know what? Too right. Like what I think women in general need to start doing is stop being insulted by it. Take it and get empowered by it.
Mhm.
Don't dwell on it. Things happen. Just keep it moving.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because even as guys, we have people that give us a hard time, so, it may just be just that unique
Mhm.
personality.
Yes.
As much as a woman or a man, so, sometimes people just aren't, like you said, they can be somebody else's client, right? So,
Absolutely.
well, anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Let's see, what's one thing that I haven't asked you that you think would be worth pointing out? Just, well, let's take it back to would you recommend women coming into this industry? Because
Yes.
like there's actually a group called Women in HVAC, right?
Yes, and we're both members.
Fantastic. So yeah, if you would talk about, to a female who's thinking about coming into this industry, whether it be a CSR or even a technician or installer, right? Field or office, so would you recommend that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm disappointed that every school I've been calling doesn't have enough females in it right now.
Yes.
It is disappointing for me. Especially since, being the mom, of 2, strong girls. I look at them and I'm like, I don't push college on them. Now, do they have dreams of college? They do, and they go through that with me. I have one that's looking right now. But that doesn't have to be her only option. And I think that she's so comfortable talking to me about that because I'm not a pusher on college.
Yeah.
I would much rather them get into something that they love and just start their career path from there. And what better than going to something like this? I'm
Right.
sorry. For me, if I were younger and if I could do it again, I probably would have been a technician and I would have transitioned into owning. But yeah, it just so happens to pick up to me this way.
Yeah.
Evaluated experience is worth a lot.
I think we've, as generations, right, we've always told men, go get this career as a plumber, go get this. Like being a plumber or an HVAC technician, that was never just a job.
Mhm.
answering phones is a job, but in this industry, it's not a job. It can actually be a sustainable career for you. I mean, here I am 20 years later and I walked into it. Like, I never imagined it to be what it is now. And so many people don't see that facet. So instead of saying, oh, we're hiring for a CSR, no, I'm hiring for you to become part of this family for the next 20 years.
Yes.
That's what it needs to be, right? And if you want to be out in the field or if you want to be just filing papers, like it's still a career, right?
Absolutely.
And without having to go to college for it. I mean, I didn't go to school for this. My degrees are in culinary arts. Like something completely different from this.
Yeah, me too.
But it's just not, the information just isn't out there that this is a field that is amazing to get into.
I mean, what other industry, and maybe I'm sure there's some out there, but I can't think of a better one, that we can literally go anywhere in the world. And if you're halfway decent at your job, your career, you can have a job in 3 days and excel. And if you go with a company that doesn't have that mindset, then you can go to another one who does. But literally, there's such a shortage of people in our industry, technicians for sure. And that's why there's been a big push with it. Why does it have to be a male career choice?
Right.
No, we
doesn't have to.
we can have female technicians. There's lots of great ones out there. So it doesn't have to be just an office position for a female. So if you're a female listening or watching this, we would encourage you, please take a look at this industry.
Salesperson, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would actually advise to learn every aspect of it.
Yep.
Because then you find what is the niche about the industry that you enjoy. And then to your point, you can actually have a career that you actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you choose.
And to put that in perspective, I lived in Maryland my entire life, and I was able to move to Texas working for the company that I work for, just doing it remotely, and in finding the company that I wanted to work for.
Yes.
And to be able to do that transition 1,400 miles away and never lose a step and then grow from just what I was doing to this far it shows the continuity of this industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you're mentoring other leaders, other business owners.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous. Tiffany being a female owner in a industry, dominated by men, with your husband, but still, I know you're a dynamic leader yourself, and I mean, respects everything you bring to the company tremendously. I still do that. So anyway, I really appreciate both of you all joining us today, and I hope that y'all found something, useful out of this information that, no matter what you're doing right now, you may be able to just apply this information to your career, even if it's another industry. But if you are, not super thrilled to get up and go to work every day, you might want to consider looking at the heating and air conditioning industry, because it does provide some amazing opportunities. And certainly if you're here in Maryland, we'd love for you to talk to us. Please feel free to check out our website, give us a call. But anyway, thank you very much for listening and for joining HVAC Unplugged, where we talk about HVAC, life, and more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.